Hello, everyone. Two ethical dilemmas this week. The case of Kevin and the copier, and John and Sue and the proprietary information. Kevin and the copier. When I look at this case, I like to think, what is the motive? What is the motive that Kevin has for letting people in the community use the copier? Could there be a good reason that he's doing this? And I think this is a useful question to approach any situation like this. When somebody's doing something that doesn't make sense to us, where to us it seems like, no, that's just wrong. Why would you possibly think that way? A good exercise is to think, why would a good person, a person who's thinking rationally, a person who's trying to do the right thing, act in the way that Kevin is acting? And if we approach the question that way, and with the information that we have, we might say that, well, what Kevin is trying to do is support goodwill toward the company by allowing people in the community to use the copier and use the telephone. And that in his mind, this isn't a huge expense. So it's kind of like promoting goodwill. It's kind of like advertising. It's an expense that's reasonable because it creates business. It encourages the people in the community to make referrals for rentals and sales to the real estate company. So it's reasonable to make that little expense from the office supplies to produce that result. Now, I think that all of you are right that when the owner says, no, you can't do that, you're wasting company resources. Company resources are only for company business, only for doing the things that we need to do in the office. Absolutely. Kevin's stepped over the line and he has to be called on that. But at this point in the conversation where we have the case, I think there's still a possibility to have another conversation. It doesn't seem like there's been a lot of conversation so far. The owner has said, "Hey, wait, what are you doing? You're spending money that we don't have." But I'm sure that, from what we know, this is a small office. This isn't a huge 100 or 1,000 employee business. There could be some dialogue between the owner and Kevin. And if Kevin still remains insubordinate, absolutely, all of you are right. If he's insubordinate, there's nothing else to be done. He can't keep his job if he's not going to listen to the owner. But I think there's a possibility that there could be movement on either side. I mean, if the reality is that this is a significant cost and it's really impacting the business, and Kevin is made to understand that, you might say, "Oh, I really didn't know that. I thought it was no big deal." I mean, obviously he does think it's no big deal from the information that we have. Or perhaps the owner might say, we're only spending $500 a year on the copier to create a lot of goodwill. Heck, we made $1,000 off that last rental that Joe referred to us because he comes in and uses the copier once a month. We don't have all the information, and I guess I just like to think of possibilities on both sides. As far as Sue and John and the proprietary information, yes, absolutely. This is a clear conflict of interest. It's one of these cases where, yes, absolutely, Sue should not share this information. And as many of you said, you as her friend would have to kind of blow the whistle on her if she decided to go ahead with sharing the proprietary information. Suzanne said it's an easy no. Emotions shouldn't sway us. And Aaron said both John and Sue should know that this is wrong. Don't let romance cloud your judgment. But isn't that precisely the problem? is that there are plenty of times when our emotions will cloud our judgment, when our emotions will prevent us from seeing things that perhaps somebody else would be able to see very clearly. And so I see this as really as an opportunity. Sue is coming to you as a friend who has studied ethics, and her mind has to be open at least a little bit if she's asking the question. So this really is a chance for you to, to say to her, look, this is proprietary information. I understand that you have this relationship with John, but you can't share stuff that's private, that's company property essentially with somebody else who's a potential competitor. I think there's at least a possibility of helping her to see that this is not a good choice. As some of you said, yes, it is kind of a hard choice if Sue does not see that this is an error, and you have the information and you know that she's going to go ahead and do this. It is hard to blow the whistle on her. It is hard to say to your superiors, look, this is happening. But as all of you said, sometimes we have hard choices, but in the long run, at least I like to think, in the long run, that if Sue makes this kind of mistake and her friend reports this kind of mistake, yes, there's going to be negative consequences immediately, but perhaps it will help Sue to rethink things in the long run and move forward and be a more ethical person in the future. And I don't think that that's a small consideration. I think when we have when we're in the position to point out somebody else's unethical behavior, to prevent somebody else's unethical behavior, to call it out, it's in the long run, it's not only the right thing to do because it's the right thing for us to do and it's the right thing for the organization, but it's the right thing for the person who is not seeing the unethical behavior at the time, in the hope that they will move forward to being a more ethical person in the future. So I'm really looking forward to reading your analyses of the ethical codes of conduct, and I'm looking forward to this week's set of discussion forums too. If there's any way that I could be helpful, you know how to reach me. Have a great week.